With rising tensions, renewed military buildups, and proxy conflicts already underway, the fragile peace between Ethiopia and Eritrea may be reaching its breaking point. In today's report, we will explore the unfolding crisis between these two nations, focusing on the dangerous escalation in the Tigray region, the growing international concerns, and the possibility that the Horn of Africa could slide into yet another devastating war. Stay with us. Ethiopia and Eritrea share a long and brutal history. Their relationship has been marked by conflict, distress, and border disputes, most notably during the 1998 to 2000 Eritrean-Ethiopian War. That war left tens of thousands dead and displaced hundreds of thousands more. Though both nations signed peace agreements in 2000 and again in 2018, the relationship between the two countries has remained fraught with tension. More recently, the Eritrean Defense Forces became deeply involved in the Tigray War, which erupted in November 2020. As part of the federal government's offensive against the Tigray People's Liberation Front, or TPLF, Eritrean forces crossed the border into the northern Ethiopia. The war devastated the region, causing widespread destruction and leading to mass atrocities, including massacres and the use of sexual violence as a weapon of war. Despite efforts to bring an end to the conflict, such as the 2018 peace deal between Ethiopia and Eritrea, which saw the two nations resume diplomatic ties, the Eritrean military has remained entrenched inside Ethiopia, exploiting the situation to benefit from a shadow economy. Gold smuggling, human trafficking, and other illicit activities have thrived under this arrangement, leaving a dangerous power vacuum. Fast forward to 2025, and the same unresolved issues are once again driving the two nations dangerously close to another full-scale conflict. Tensions between the two countries have reached new heights in recent months. In July 2025, Eritrean President Isaias Afwerki made a provocative statement, warning that Eritrea knows how to defend itself, an unmistakable threat to Ethiopia. In return, Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed responded with equally assertive rhetoric, asserting that Ethiopia is fully capable of protecting its sovereignty. These statements from both leaders are not just political posturing. They come at a time when military mobilization are taking place on both sides. Eritrea initiated a nationwide military mobilization in early 2025, while Ethiopia moved its forces to the border with Eritrea in March. This dangerous rhetoric and the corresponding military activity are clear signs that both nations are preparing for the worst. Adding fuel to the fire, in March 2025, armed factions of the Tigray region, backed by Eritrean forces, staged a mini coup. These groups seized control of several strategic areas in Tigray, escalating tensions in the region further. The instability has made the situation even more volatile, with both sides blaming each other for stoking the fires of war. At the heart of the crisis is Tigray, a region that has seen its fair shares of violence and instability. Following the 2022 peace deal that formally ended the Tigray War, the Tigray People's Liberation Front, or TPLF, is split into two competing factions. One faction, led by Getachew Reda, has aligned itself with the Ethiopian government, while the other has continued to receive support from Eritrea. The Tigrayan front lines have been drawn not only by internal political rivals, but also by the external involvement of Eritrean forces. Eritrean troops, though officially part of the 2022 ceasefire agreement, have not withdrawn from the region. In fact, Eritrean forces continue to assist Tigray's breakaway factions, staging attacks on federal forces and battling rival Tigrayan groups. This dynamic has turned Tigray into a proxy battleground, one where Eritrea's military ambitions and Ethiopia's internal fragmentation are both playing out in a deadly dance. In early July 2025, clashes between rival Tigrayan groups resumed, with reports of significant casualties. Getachew Reda, a key leader of the TPLF, publicly warned that Tigray was on the brink of a new war, one that could involve Ethiopia, Eritrea, and various international actors. But what's driving these tensions at this particular moment? One of the key factors is Ethiopia's growing desire for access to the Red Sea. The landlocked nation lost access to the sea in 1993 when Eritrea gained independence. Since then, Ethiopia has been searching for ways to regain a foothold in the region. In 2024, Ethiopia signed a controversial deal with Somaliland to access the port of Babur, bypassing Somalia in the process. This move has angered Somalia and provoked further regional tensions, particularly as Ethiopia pushes for more influence in the Red Sea. The deal is also seen as a direct challenge to Eritrea, which views Ethiopia's maritime ambitions as a threat to its own territorial and economic interests. Eritrea, in response, has strengthened its alliances, particularly with Russia. Eritrea's military has been rearming and it has openly supported anti-government insurgents in Ethiopia. Meanwhile, Ethiopia has bolstered its own military and formed closer ties with the regional powers like Turkey, the UAE, and Saudi Arabia. These external alliances are shaping the geopolitics of the region, and the involvement of global powers like Russia and China in Sudan further complicated matters. For both countries, the struggle for access to the Red Sea has become more than just a strategic priority. It is an existential question that could determine their future. The stakes of this conflict are enormous, not only for Ethiopia and Eritrea but for the entire Horn of Africa. If war erupts between the two countries, it could destabilize the entire region, which is already reeling from the after effects of the Tigray war. The humanitarian consequences of the Tigray conflict were devastating, with an estimated of 600,000 people killed and millions more displaced. Reports from human rights organizations have documented widespread atrocities, including massacres, widespread sexual violence, and the systematic looting of resources. These unresolved war crimes continue to fester, further deepening the animosity between Tigrayans, Ethiopians, and Eritreans. The possibility of a return to open war threatens not just the lives of ordinary civilians but the already fragile economies and governance structures of these countries. The region's instability has led to a freeze in foreign investment, and the looming threat of a new war could jeopardize international development efforts, particularly as Ethiopia continues to push for foreign aid and investment. US officials, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, have warned that renewed conflict would derail the Horn of Africa's hopes for economic development and security, potentially causing further instability in Sudan, Somalia, and the wider region, not to mention South Sudan. As tensions mount in the Horn, the situation in the Democratic Republic of Congo, or DRC, offers a cautionary tale. In July 2025, the DRC signed a ceasefire agreement with the M23 rebel group, a key player in the country's ongoing instability. However, while the agreement was hailed as a breakthrough, it failed to address core issues such as the territorial control that M23 holds over eastern Congo. Despite the ceasefire, fighting has continued, and the DRC's fragile grip on its own military and militias has created a situation where peace may be impossible to achieve. This failure to address the root cause of the conflict serves as a warning to Ethiopia and Eritrea. If a ceasefire is signed without addressing core issues like Tigray's governance or the question of Eritrean forces in Ethiopia, the peace could quickly collapse, reigniting the war. So, what happens next? As of August 2025, no final peace agreement has been signed between Ethiopia and Eritrea. There is still no clear framework for demobilizing forces, rebuilding trust, or resolving the question of Tigray's governance. The timeline is tight. The next few months could be critical in determining whether the region slides into a full-scale conflict or not. Ethiopia's internal fractures, Eritrea's strategic maneuvering, and the broader geopolitical stakes all converge at this moment, with devastating consequences on the horizon. Though large-scale war may not be imminent, the conditions are ripe for conflict. A small miscalculation, a poorly timed military escalation, or further interference by external powers could trigger a devastating war, one with consequences that would echo far beyond the Horn of Africa. To stay updated on this developing story and other security issues across Africa, make sure to subscribe, like, and turn on the notification button. This has been Babur Duang Uncensored, and thank you for watching.